Welcome, everybody. This is the Microsoft 365 Platform Community Call. It is December 7th, 2021. My name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a program manager in the Microsoft 365 platform areas. And today we are planning to have cool demos concentrating on the Microsoft 365 platform areas. So focusing on the Microsoft 365 Instant Sandbox. And then Sebastian Levers is going to talk about Discover the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So talking about different areas on the M365 platform. Quick recap on some of the assets which we have available, which we always keep on showing in these calls. I know that this might be a repeat for some of you people, but there's always some new people in this call. So we want to make sure that people are aware of all of the assets and goodness which are available for you to take advantage. First of all, we have two different YouTube channels. We have the official Microsoft 365 developer YouTube channel, where we focused on developer guidance from the cloud advocates and the Microsoft side of the house. Then we have the Microsoft 365 community videos, where we have all of the community call recordings and demos being published from that location. We have a lot of open source assets available throughout the GitHub, but because finding the right sample might be a bit difficult, we have also built a different kind of sample galleries, which will make it easier for you to find the right sample for what's on, depending on what you're looking for. So you can go, for example, to the Teams sample gallery and search for specific bot framework samples or whatever other things you might be looking into. If you're wondering that there's too many URLs to remember, luckily that is not the case. There's only one URL, which is AKMS M365 From there, you will find all of the links to all of the other assets. Now, some of the topics of today is that we'll do a live demo on what is the Microsoft 365 Instant Demo Dev Tenant, which is available for you for free. So again, repeatable slide, but it's really, really important that you sign up for the Microsoft 365 developer program. From here, you will get a free E5 developer tenant and other assets available to helping you to be successful in the Microsoft 365 platform. It is a great offer, and as long as you can use it for developer usage and not use it in production as a production tenant, it will renew for you automatically. So there's some level of a detection on what are you doing in that tenant to understand that it's being used in the right way. Now, the other thing, what we are always reminding people in here is our training material. So all of the different learning paths and more is coming. So we're building Microsoft 365 platform learning paths for you to take advantage. And these are really for you to learn how to start implementing extensibility in Microsoft 365. And they do start from basics and then take one step at a time, go further down on the more detailed and more complex scenarios. So they are awesome assets for free, learning how to get started on the Microsoft 365 platform. Now, something which will hopefully get the official blog post announcement later this week. I need to still write that. I've been really busy within the past weeks. Is that our Microsoft 365 Unified Sample Gallery is heading now GA, and we have more than 600, and I think it's 640 right about now, samples available for you to take advantage. So, as we have a lot of samples in the GitHub, and it might feel difficult to find the right sample from community or from Microsoft, we built this unified Microsoft 365 sample gallery, which will make it easier for you to access the latest samples. And you can easily download also a specific sample or the samples code. So you don't have to pull down the whole GitHub repo for getting an individual sample, which you want to use as a starting point from your development. And then as you're looking into hitting the Microsoft 365 and learning these things, we actually can help you even more. And I think David, coming live from Las Vegas, can actually talk about this slide in the best possible way.
Yes, thank you, Vesa. And as Vesa had mentioned, we want you to get more involved in the community, but we understand that there are times where you may not be able to do that because of certain hurdles, like how to interface with GitHub. How can you do your first pull request? Perhaps you'd like to work on a sample or even present a sample, but we know that there may be some hurdles involved in getting you involved in that way. Sharing is Caring is a first of its kind program in a tech community that will provide you hands-on safe space opportunities to collaborate. We will teach you how, we will show you how, and we will work alongside with you and other members of the community. It is all free, all safe space, not recorded, multiple sessions scheduled each month and available for you to join. So don't hesitate. We've got popular topics. We've got more coming up. We've got Ask Me Anythings coming up, a whole host of new exciting things for 2022 and is on the way. aka.ms/sharing is caring. Vesa, back to you from Las Vegas.
Thank you, David. I can clearly hear that there are people around you because you were being a bit more cautious about your audio, so not being as radio sound as typically. Now, let's move on the slide. So a few additional assets and reminders. We have a Microsoft 365 developer podcast helping you to stay up to date with what's happening in these areas where it's typically hosted by Paul and Jeremy Fake together, and there's typically a visitor in this podcast as well. I think the latest episode is 2 weeks from now with the latest development from Ignite. And the other one, the other podcast and the video blog is the Microsoft 365 PMP Weekly, where we always also have a visitor in place where we talk about the latest news and happening within the community and talk about the career paths and other areas, whoever the visitor is actually joining us on this show. Now, a few news from last week. So there was 2 main news on the developer side of the house. So first of all, there's a new video or learning guidance from Rabia and Bob on single sign-on for Microsoft Teams tabs. So making it easier to understand how those Microsoft Teams tabs can use the single sign-on and what does it actually mean in practice. The second one, quite important news actually, is that there's a new version of Microsoft Teams Toolkit version 3, which is now in preview as well. So, and that is well, the version 2 never went to GA, but version 3 is now a quite significant update on that Microsoft Teams Toolkit, and that's why it was actually upgraded with a major version. It is still in preview, but that's going to be evolving to the general availability sooner or later within the next year. But there's a lot of enterprise development focused on that one, so more capabilities and options available. Now, the next one, before we go to the demo section of the house, let's do a quick proof photo if we can get this one to work properly today. So I'm going to start the recording and I'm going to share my screen, which I'm already doing. And it actually doesn't look too bad. I guess we will be successful today. There has been some hiccups every now and then, depending on the upstream and how fast this is. We are already recording. We have 50 seats on the house. Let's do some hand waving. A few more seconds. Let's wait for the seats to fill up. You can use Seb on the middle as your example. He's really good at this and waving the hands. Still a few more seats. Still more seats. I guess we need to start recording. Thanks, everybody. Let's do some hand waving. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining also the people from Las Vegas, and thank you for the rest of the community as well. Awesome to have you in the call. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Cool. And then we are heading to the demo section. So, Seb, I think you're ready to go.
I am absolutely ready. So let me just start this, share my screen.
Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Vesa. So, hello, everybody. My name is Sebastian. I am a senior program manager on the Microsoft Graph team. And today is going to be the first of a couple. We don't know exactly how many, but we want to go through all of the features that one of the tools we offer as part of the Microsoft Graph program, which is called the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. We want to go through all of the features, the components, different providers to really give you kind of a head start when you're building applications using Microsoft Graph data, especially all your web applications. So today what we're going to do is we're going to get started with the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. We're going to look at some resources that we have, some of our documentation, our playground, a high-level review of all the different components. And then afterwards, the next couple of sessions, we're going to go a little bit deeper in each of these components, the providers, and all of that. So let's start with potentially the question you're asking yourself is, why do I see a giraffe on my screen right now? So let's go a little bit deeper and talk to you about what is the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. Microsoft Graph Toolkit is a collection of reusable, framework-agnostic components and authentication providers for accessing and working with Microsoft Graph. The components are fully functional, customizable, and they work with any web framework on all modern browsers. So what does it mean exactly? It means that the toolkit is for you a super simple way to get access to data that lives inside Microsoft Graph and glue that data or pin that data inside your web applications. You might be using Angular, you might be using React, you might be using any type of HTML framework. We work with all of them. You might be using your own web app, you might be using your own Teams application, or even SPFX framework web part, and you want to bring some of that data. Well, we work with all of them. So during the couple of next weeks, we're going to really cover all the breadth and depth of the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. Something really important, it works everywhere. As long as you're on the web, you're good to go and you're fully covered. But why would you use the Microsoft Graph Toolkit? First of all, if you are like me, and I love to say that, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but I'm lazy. I'm a developer and I'm lazy. I don't want to build and rebuild again and rebuild again the same components over and over. I want to be able to leverage a library of controls that delivers the value that I'm expecting, but also that brings all the fully functional value out of it. So for example, in the case of the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, I just want to add some UI components in just a few lines of code. I don't want to go and start building it, caring about performance, caching, batching, authentication, all of that. No, I just want to bring the UI components and work with them right off the bat. I also want to build something that is beautiful but is flexible. And then again, I'm very lazy. And on top of that, as a developer, I'm not the best designer in the world. So when I'm using the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, I'm using a library of controls that look like exactly the Microsoft 365 experience. So when I have the Microsoft 365 experience in my app, it means that my users are used to these experiences, are used to the behaviors that underpin these components. But sometimes, like any app, I want to customize just a little bit, or I want to fully customize the entire experience. So what does it mean? Well, it means now that you can have the basic experience, the basic M365 experience as part of the toolkit, but also where you can add your own CSS and your own templating on top of what we provide. Finally, it works everywhere. The Graph Toolkit is based on web standards. We're not specifically using one UI framework like React or Angular or any other. We are using web components, which are part of the web standards. It works on any modern browser with any modern frameworks. And what does it provide you is the fact that you can use it in any type of apps that you're already building. So you don't have to relearn a new framework. You don't have to migrate your entire app to a framework to be able to leverage just these parts of the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. No, it's bring the toolkit as part of your existing app and you are ready to go. That's really cool, by the way. Let's go through a little bit of the components that we have here. First of all, we have the login component. The login component is just an HTML tag, as you can see at the bottom, MGT-component that is a simple button, also offers a flyout to know who's the user that is connected, what is maybe the role of that user. And this is where the magic starts. It automatically facilitates all the Microsoft Identity Platform authentication. So this is where you're going to go in and log in to your underlying backend system, in that case, which will be Microsoft Graph, is secured by the Microsoft Identity Platform. So that's the first component that we offer. The second component that we offer is the person component. The person component really brings the data about either the currently connected user or any other user, and it displays their photos, their email address, and a bunch of other person details, the title of that person, and it could even be customized information right there. Again, the only thing you have to do to bring that to life in your app is to drop in the MGT-person component inside your application, and automatically, well, you're going to see the person component light up and have all of that richness that brings the cached version of the picture, the title, the email address, even the presence of your user in Teams right now. So really, really successful component that we have right there. On top of this, we also have the people component where we can add multiple people in a single representation, like the following. So the MGT people brings the kind of any group information or any type of users in there, like a face file, where you can see all of them. Think about maybe you're inviting people to a meeting and you want to see everybody that was invited. This should be a good scenario for you. Or you want to see all the persons in your organization. Well, you can just add a group or even the entire org to see all of them right there. Very customizable. You can use the MGT-people component. You drop it in and automatically you can work with this. The person card. The person card is for me the most significant usage of the Microsoft Graph Toolkit because of the value it provides. Everywhere when you're in M365, you always have that super rich person card where you can see who that person reports to, maybe the current files they're working on, the emails you have with that person, some information about their profile. Well, here, you can actually do this here. You can bring that person and have the full expanded experience where you can see the contact, the phone number, the location, who they report to, their files, their skills, their experience, by just dropping that super simple MGT person card to the screen or to your app. So the MGT-person-card component is, I think, one of the easiest way to deliver value right in there into any of your app. And I see some questions. I'm going to go back to the question right after the couple of slides that we're going through. People Picker. People Picker is a rich component that allows you to do searching for people. So you can target the People Picker to be your organization. You can be for a specific group or for a set of groups, maybe the people that are around you. And here, you will be able to pick these people. Think about maybe you want to start or you want to invite people to a meeting and you're using that control to identify all the people you want to have in the meeting and automatically create the meeting via graph. Or you want to start a site and automatically create a site based on these people. So we provide the search experience, but also all the flyout that enables you to search with the type ahead automatically in there. The Teams channel picker. You might want to have an app and you want to select where you want to send a message, or maybe you want to add a tab to a channel via graph, or you want to do any type of channel-related operation. But here, we offer you the way to bring a Teams channel picker within your application, and where you're going to be able to take that information and share it and send it to that channel. The agenda. Who doesn't live within their agenda? So we offer a way to see an agenda in a very visual way. What are the meetings, times, who are the attendees of that meeting? And you can even provide extra information and even redefine the templates to make it look exactly like you want it to be. You can also change the query to bring your entire day or just your next agenda item. Lots of different configurations that can happen right there. Planner tasks. Planner tasks are great. We have an MGT task component that enables the users not only to view, but also to act on tasks by adding, removing, completing, or even editing tasks from Microsoft Planner. So you can just drop that component right there. You're going to be able to add tasks, specify to which plan you want to add this task, and automatically it will be great to have it in your app right there. And we have the exact same component that lives within the to-do task that brings it exactly within the Microsoft To-Do. So that's a very personal component, so it only works on the user, but it provides that richness to have a task management component that you can drop on any type of surface on the web. The file component. File component is used to represent files that live either in SharePoint or OneDrive, and we can display a lot of the information like the file name, the date, the author. You can even customize which information you want to see there, the icon of the file. You can also do this with folders. You can also use the expanded version of the MGT file, which is called file list, which brings a lot of files together in a single pane, like the following. The MGT file list is basically allowing you to browse files right in there. And since our latest release, you even have the ability to upload files by dragging and dropping straight onto that canvas and automatically upload the file in the corresponding folder that is serving these files. So really, really, really rich experience with the file and the file list. Now, let's say you're building an app, and your app might have some of these scenarios built in, or maybe not all of them, right? So what do you do? Well, we have the master of all the components, which is called the get component. The get component allows you to get literally any type of data within Microsoft Graph. So, for example, you see we don't have a messages or an inbox type of component. Well, you can build it. So we have this entire templating engine that you can use to say, okay, I want to get this resource within Graph, in that case, /me/messages. I will need mail.read, so I will need some scopes and some consents to that specific scope. And I want to iterate through all of my emails and show them right in the UI, like this. So how great is this? How powerful can this component be? We believe this is the way to work. You can build your own, and even if you are building this within React, you can even add your own React components to actually serve the rendering of that get component. Let the get component do the authentication, the call to Graph, the caching, and all of that, and afterwards passing the data to your React component. We're going to come back to that in a future videos right there. So I see a lot of PCF comments in the chat. This is amazing feedback, by the way, folks. I'm happy to hear this. It's something that we have in mind, the back of our mind around PCF, on how we can bring the Graph Toolkit there so you can leverage it inside your own Power Apps over there. It's something we have in mind. I'll be happy to share more when we have something specific. But I'm happy to hear that there's a real need for your application. So that's really, really cool. Let me show you something very quickly before we jump on to the next presenter. I want to be respectful of their time. So let me go here and show you some of this right here. So now I'm bringing a browser. A couple of really powerful tools that we have on the Graph Toolkit is, first of all, where do we start? First of all, we're going to go aka.ms/MGT, MGT for Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So this is our repo. The Graph Toolkit not only is an awesome tool, but it's also fully open source. So what does it mean? Well, it means that you can use your own skills. And if you want to build some of our components, you're more than welcome to join our community on GitHub. You're also welcome to log in any of the issues that you're going through. And if you want to bring code to ourselves, like bug fixes or whatsoever, you can absolutely do that. So that's really kind of our home base for the Graph Toolkit. The second thing you might want to do is aka.ms/MGT/docs. This is our full documentation on our Microsoft Graph Toolkit. That's where you're going to know how to use the components, what are the different attributes, what are different events, how you want to do advanced styling, customizing, the templating, all of this. You're going to have all of this, like how to get started with Toolkit for React and Toolkit for SPFX, build your first app, the different providers we have, all the components, and how you can customize these. We're going to go through a lot of these documentation in the next few weeks, but I wanted to at least mention the aka.ms/MGT/docs. Another one that I really, really love is aka.ms/MGT/dev. So what does it mean? This is our, let's call it our playground. This is where you can start and really play around with our components. So let's go and let's look at, for example, the MGT person component that we have. So here you have a visual representation of all the components, right? On the left, you can see all of them. You can see different ways. For example, all the person. Maybe you were living in a right to left environment. We both provide these two, so you can play around. But here, which is really cool, this is like a full playground where you can play around. So I can say, hey, you know what? Here I don't want to have 2 lines. I want to have 3 lines. And now automatically, this is going to get updated, and now I see a 3rd line. In this case, it's going to be the title of the person that will show up right there. When you want to go, you can click on Docs, and automatically you're going to see all the different attributes that you can use. So for example, here I see Show Presence. That's really cool. So let's go back here. Let's go back to our canvas, and I'm going to add Show Presence. And now, well, it looks like we might have an issue here around my user, but you see it adds automatically a presence. And if the user was connected, in this case, the user is offline. If the user was connected, it would automatically get that user to be green or red or yellow or away or whatsoever. So you can really play around with this and even totally change the way that you want to build your application. So this is a great example of how you can get started with the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, because you don't have to install anything. You don't have to get anything in any apps, any connections, any consent, any admins or whatsoever. This is really kind of the best way to start. So let me go back to slides where we're going to cover the next steps. In our next session, we're going to cover a couple of things here. The first one, we're going to do a lot of components deep dive, where we're going to look at all the components and settings to create stellar apps. We're going to really play around some of these components, starting with the login component, and afterwards, we're going to go and expand on all the different components we have. We're going to go and talk about advanced topics, where we're going to customize with styles, our templating, caching, capabilities within the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. And finally, we're going to talk about integrations. So we're going to talk about React, we're going to talk about SharePoint Framework, Teams effects, multiple providers that can be hosted inside Electron, inside Microsoft Teams, and all of these really rich capabilities that really make your app feel super natural for the user that is consuming them. So a couple of references: our repo, the playground, our docs, and also our learn module, so aka.ms/mgt/learn, where you can start today to learn about the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, where we have a full example of building an app from A to Z using our Microsoft Docs and Microsoft Learn modules. So hope this was useful. Hope this excites you for the next couple of sessions that we're going to do all together. I'm happy to see that there's a good reaction from all of you in the chat. So I'm very happy, and I'm going to go through some of the comments and answer them right away. I'm going to take one question that I see that is relevant around the playground. So can you have the playground inside your tenant? You can build it. Basically, you can go take our code and run it inside your tenant if you want to. We're also working into integrating it with one of our most used tools for Microsoft Graph, which is the Microsoft Graph Explorer, where you're going to be able to connect to your own tenant and be able to play with the UI elements. That's going to come a little bit later next year, but it's something that we have in mind. Cool. Well, Vesa, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that one. So let me do a quick, because we promised to talk about the Microsoft 365 developer program and some craft stuff. We covered craft stuff. So let me do a quick live demo related on the Microsoft 365 developer program. How do you sign up and what's available? And just to recap, AKMS M365/dev program is one AKMS address to get there. There's actually multiple one of them. It's quite typical for us. And in Microsoft, we are creating a lot of AKMS addresses, but that's one of the AKMS addresses to get there. Now, let me actually show a live demo on what happens when you actually get there. I think this one is the one. And let's see how this goes. So first of all, what I've done here is that I actually already gone to the AKMS address, and that means that you will be redirected to the developer.microsoft.com/dev the language, and then Microsoft 365 and dev program. And from here, you can then start to join now functionality. I already signed in, so I'm signed into here using a Microsoft account, so one of the sample accounts which we're using. It is saying Office 365 developers, so it's relatively old accounts because we're nowadays Microsoft 365 developers, right? Now, the key point of the Microsoft 365 developer program is that you will get a free developer instant sandbox. So you will get it immediately, and it will have example data and structures inside of it. And we're going to walk through the process in a second. There's sample data packs, including Microsoft Teams, and there's also sample data packs for SharePoint side. So there's a pre-existing content in that tenant already, including people and accounts. So there's, I think it's 19 or 25 accounts which are actually available immediately in that tenant. And they're different persons, and that's going to help on, for example, creating example content, creating sharing information with some of the other accounts in a tenant, and all of that stuff. So it's kind of for demo usage as well. You can access experts, so there's a community. You will get emails out of the news and all of that stuff, and then personalized recommendations as well. But really the key here is, no doubt, is the free Microsoft 365 E5 tenant. I actually briefly read a quick update on this one. If you have an old developer tenant, which is E3, which was the case previously, you can actually subscribe to a new subscription. So you can create an alternative tenant and then leave the old one behind and then move to the new one. There's unfortunately no in-place upgrade of an existing Microsoft 365 E3 developer tenant, which was the old model, to this E5 tenant model. But that's really, really cool. So let's actually walk this through the process. So what does it mean in practice? And let's see if this works. Now, if I'm not able to walk this through, we're going to cut this part obviously from the end recording. So this is the only moment you will see this live because I haven't actually tested this. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so we are signing into the Microsoft 365 developer tenant. And like I said, I'm already signed in with a one random account, which we've been using in the past. And I'm going to sign in here. Let me go and sign myself. For example, I'm located right now in Finland. So if I can actually just use the alphabets, it is really, really hard. And I can say that I'm from Microsoft, language preference is English, I do accept, and sure, I'm interested in all of the emails and all of that stuff. And what is my primary focus as a developer? Let me zoom in a bit so you can actually see all of the different questions. Doesn't really matter. This is more categorization of the people who are registering to the program, so we understand what is our main audience in the Microsoft 365 platform. But I don't personally do this anymore, but I used to do custom solution for my customers. Now it's a bit of a different story. What are the areas of Microsoft 365 development you're interested in? This will then indicate what is visible in the dashboard, so kind of a more visible for you to access the information. Sure, SharePoint framework, Craft, Teams, not that much. Power Platform is super interesting. Let's save that one as well. So, and let's save it, and there we go. So now we have two different options for setting up our Microsoft 365 as Sandbox, as an instant sandbox with an existing content and information or structures which are available. And this is basically already pre-provisioned tenant, which is immediately available for me to take advantage, or alternatively configurable sandbox, which means that I'm going to enable the bits and pieces one step at a time as needed. As we are talking about the instant sandbox, we're actually going to choose that one now. So it will have users, mails, and events and content in there, and Microsoft Teams content and SharePoint content in that tenant as well. So let's actually do that. It's going to ask me where it's going to be provisioned, and these are the four different options. Technically, it's already provisioned. It's going to be just associated to you. I'm located in Finland, so I'm going to take the Ireland admin username. Now, this is getting a bit tricky. How would I actually do this without showing my app username with all of you? Let me do this in a way that let me actually take this one and move it in this screen. So I'm going to actually do this quickly. As a read through, and I'm writing this in a different screen, so just that I don't share the information with you. And I will continue. Now, the next piece is then asking a phone number. And again, I'm going to move this to another screen. So we're not going to capture my phone number because, well, I don't answer my phone anymore nowadays. Who uses phone in a way for communication channel? But this is basically for security reasons. And it also double checks that how many tenants are being registered to an individual phone number. There's some level of logic behind the scenes as well. Now, in my case, let me do this in another screen again. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to fill in my phone number. And it's going to send a code to my phone number. And let's see if it actually works. There was some level of problems in this. And let me actually show you. If I can solve this, there has been some, let's say, challenges related on the country codes, but I was able to crack it, and it is actually sending me the code, and my code is coming in my mobile right now, so I can actually register this and set up. So let's see if that actually moves forward. I will move it in here. And that's basically now set up for me to use. So what I did there is that I provided my phone number and I provided my country code. But there seems to be a bit of things which we need to adjust on that registration. So even though I selected my country code from the dropdown, I was still forced to do 00358 as a prefix for my phone number. So it's a bit of a misleading way of doing things. Now, what we basically have here now is our tenant, which is ready to be used. And we can actually see that the tenant is available with that unique name. And it is actually with that unique administrator address as well. Now, let's do this in a way, because we do have time. I'm going to actually try to do this in a interestingly way. So let me create a new profile for me. I'm going to add a new profile to a browser. And I'm going to leave my registration window on the left, and I'm going to actually use that information on the right side. So I'm going to sign into the actual location. So let me go to, let's see, where would I actually go? Office.com is if I register, well, I could actually go in here and do SharePoint.com. That's probably the easiest way to go to the registration number. One of the interesting thing in Edge is, why would I do this? Why would I create a new profile and then it's using my work profile? No, thank you. I don't want to do that. I want to sign into the Microsoft 365, and I'm going to sign in using that administrator number, which I gave, or administrator name, which I gave as part of registration and the program. And next, and then I'm going to write my password over there. And let's see if I was able to actually get it right. And there's some security things. No, skip for now. 14 days until it's required. Okay, so that's cool. Stay signed in. In this case, I can actually do that because I created a new profile in my Edge, which is the easiest way to do the isolation. So this way, I'm now in the tenant, and we can actually see some example existing content here. And let's see, I'm using that account in the new tenant. That didn't take too long, right? So that was a quite simple thing to do. And the most complex thing was to fill in my phone number. So I'm going to go to teams.microsoft.com. I'm going to skip for now. I'm not going to focus on the security improvements there, and I'm going to go to the mobile, and we should see some example structures and content in this tenant already. And here we go. And yes, let's go. And I'm not interested in shifts. I'm actually more interested in teams. And we can actually see some example structures already in the available. So different teams, different channels, not too much content in them, but there's some level of a structures available. There's example accounts already chatting in the team as well. You can actually make that happen as well, which is pretty cool. And then if I go in here and let's actually double check the situation also from admin. No, I do not want to change to my actual work account. Just making sure, asking 25 times, you know. And then I'm going to go to the SharePoint side of the house just to show that there's some example structures available. No, I do not want, and checkbox nowadays on, and skip that one. And let me go to the active sites, and we can actually see that there's some example content immediately available in this site as well. So if I now go to the US sales, or if I open up a Mark 9 project, or if we open up a retail, we should actually see some example structures and content available. At least there's site collections available in this. I'm just looking into. There isn't actually a significant amount of example structures available in the sites, but again, we have existing content available, existing accounts, existing users, and all of that available in the tenant to take advantage. So that's actually really, really cool. Now, let's see if we can. I'm going to answer a few of the questions. How does the admin side play in this scenario? Technically, so just to clarify on that one, this is completely isolated tenant which has been assigned for me. So this one would be my normal, let's say, a Microsoft account, my Hotmail account, my Outlook account, whatever you use for identifying with Microsoft, and you have signed in or registered in the developer program using that one. But this one here is the information around this tenant, which was signed in, and that is basically completely isolated tenant assigned for my admin account, which registered to the developer program. So this is completely isolated and using its own identities as well. Now, good question on the. So how would I get an Azure tenant backing the site? You would actually go from the admin center. So if we go back in the admin center, I can actually go back in here, and we have the admin centers, including Active Directory, Azure Active Directory available in here as well. So that is the tenant or Azure AD behind of the scenes. Now on the app catalog, unless I'm completely mistaken, if I remember correctly, unfortunately the SharePoint app catalog isn't actually created by default. It is, however, something which gets created in a matter of seconds nowadays. So if I go to apps, live demos are always good. So if I click app catalog, it's going to ask me that do I want to create it Do I want to create it automatically within a minute, or do I want to create it on an alternative option, which will take 30 minutes? Yeah, I'm going to choose the 1 minute option and clicking OK. And that's actually going to start the creation of the app catalog. It is less than 1 minute, and the app catalog is available. Because technically already at this point, after a few seconds, if I go back in active sites and refresh, we should see the apps app catalog pretty soon available in the sites. Because the provisioning is based on the new model, we can actually see that the app catalog is already created, and there is my apps for SharePoint, and it's completely functioning site. Not sure if it's actually yet visible in here. Again, there's some certain level of caching as well. No, it's not yet. Okay, that's fine. Now, but that's kind of a quick clarification. What do you get when you register to the Microsoft 365 admin? Microsoft 365, talking is hard, Microsoft 365 developer program. And maybe a quick side point here, because Sydney is asking that, how does this work? These are site design, site scripts. I can browse different templates which are available. You can introduce your own templates, and I can select one of these to be and then applied to my site. So this is based on the site script and site design technology. Nowadays, it's renamed to be called site template again. I can apply the template, and then that's going to be applied on top of the existing site. So behind of the scenes is always the same SharePoint site. Now we're heading towards a direction where it is a SharePoint site. The underlying template doesn't matter because we adjust the SharePoint experience as it is. But again, good way of getting example content in, and then all of this is getting then indexed by Microsoft Search in this tenant, and I can start building cool experiences and embedding Viva connection directly in Teams and all of that stuff. Maybe one thing to call out here, there are certain, let's say, how would I put it, not inconsistencies, but certain things. So something like, I'm personally, I don't quite understand why did we decide to have the activities in the fourth one, not the first one, which is it by default. But you can, of course, shuffle all of that stuff in this tenant as you wish. The tenant will automatically renew after is 120 days. We can actually see that in here. So now if I extend this one, Does it already show that? No, oh, there we go, 90 days left. It actually shows that. So in 90 days, it's going to basically do a recap of have you used it for developer purposes or not, and then it's going to renew automatically if needed. So pretty cool stuff, and most likely we'll do a quick recap on the developer program in the next year. I think that's fine. So let's make sure that the people who actually own this are present in the call and they can answer on the questions as well. But that's pretty much it for the developer program. Really, really cool stuff, and of course, in this admin dashboard, where you don't necessarily go too often, but you can, of course, get more information. You can subscribe to different emails and all of that stuff as well. So there is certain level of settings in here. Most of your time most likely will be happening in that tenant which we just created. Good. What happens after the 90 days? As long as you renew, use it for developer purposes, it's going to automatically renew, and you will get the same tenant. So it's basically going to extend that tenant in every single 90 days. So really, really cool stuff. So let's actually go back in the slide deck. I'm going to jump back on the closing, and let's do some Q&A in the end. We have some time, but coming back on the developer program, AKMS M365 Dev program is one URL to get there as well. There's a few different AKMS addresses to do that. Please sign up. It is free, doesn't cost you anything, and it's going to renew that based on your selection. Huge. Now, just a recap. I'm going to answer some of the questions as we go to the final slides, but recapping all of our community calls. So the Microsoft 365 weekly community call happens on Tuesdays, 8 a.m. It is this call. Next Tuesday, we still have a so-called normal call, but then the following weeks after that will be more a coffee and tea with engineering. So at least I will be here. I know that some of the community members will be here answering any questions. We can do ad hoc demos. We can do ad hoc things, but basically making sure that we're here for you if you have any questions also during the holiday time. So we're repeating and executing the call every single week within upcoming weeks as well. For other community calls, there's multiple other ones available. If you're wondering what are all of these, go to the AKMS M365 PMP URL. From there, you'll find more details. Now, the recording will be available in the YouTube channel within 24 hours, and we will push out a blog post summary as well, where we talk about all of the different URLs and assets which we went through. You cannot, just a reminder, you cannot download the recording directly from the Teams chat unless you are a Microsoft employee. That is just a limitation in Microsoft Teams, and that's why the recording will be in a YouTube channel within 24 hours. And next Microsoft 365 platform call is a week from now, so December 14th. We do have 3 confirmed demos on that one, and we'll double check that everything is going as planned. But as we do have a few minutes, I'm going to go back into questions, and those who want to leave, feel free to leave and move away from the call as well. But just answering some of the questions. Are there any plans to include Power Apps and flows with the modern list templates? I guess there is. It's just a matter of a packaging functionalities. I know that there is actually. So we're trying to make it easier for people to do those things as an optional thing to do in experiences. Absolutely. So now I cannot provide an ETA for that. When signing out, what is the impact of my selection in the type of development? Second screen, I believe. Jim is asking. That's more on the targeted. I guess the objective of that one was to provide a specific set of links based on your selection and interest. Now, the links are currently not visible in the portal, which might be because nobody was updating the links. So it's not a super important thing. It's more information for Microsoft on what kind of developer things you are interested on, so that we know on the areas where we are investing our time. So nothing too dramatic there. What else? Are you aware that Viva Connection app in Teams isn't available in Teams Previews, which out of preview and it appears? I'm not aware of that. That's actually an interesting nuance. I guess we need to double check on that one, what's causing that. Thank you, Nick, for sharing. Really, really good. And the sun never sets with the BMP global community. Indeed, it could be an interesting thing to use Azure Functions to do the same development graph webhooks. At the moment, it looks like this is not covered. In the developer program, it doesn't actually have Azure Functions by default there, because that would require that somebody would have to pay for the consumption and usage of the Azure Function. Now, what you can do, however, is that you can absolutely use Azure Functions in that create a tenant and in the developer program, as long as you go to the Azure and start creating things. There's a certain level of covered costs depending on which program you have signed up. And thank you, Seb, for sharing that link as well. Is it possible to have Dynamics 365 apps installed as well? Just tried it myself, and the Dynamics apps were disabled in a new environment. To be honest, I'm not sure. It might be that you can enable them. Challenge is that it is a developer tenant, so it's a specific tenant. So most likely they don't work that well together. But I'm not sure. I would have to double check that from the Dynamics people. Parker Sai is following me wherever I go. Thank you, Jim, for that smile. I guess that close up this week. I don't see any massive pending questions on the chat. And like I said, week from now on Tuesday, we will have 3 demos. The recording will be available within 24 hours in the YouTube channel, as mentioned. Thursday this week, we have a next community call happening related on, we have Power Platform stuff, we have list formatting stuff, and I can't remember what was the third one, but call demos coming up on Thursdays as well. So please follow up on what's happening. Easiest way to get excited and understanding the possibilities of the platform is jumping in on these calls and check out the recording. But that's it for now. Thanks everybody for joining. Let's stay in touch. Bye-bye.